Hey all, welcome to a Dram of Diving. Looks like we got a few of you guys here. I have posted a bunch of stuff into the comments to give you guys an idea. We've got the Patreon going on, and we've got our whiskey glasses still that we've got a lot of available for, and those hooded sweatshirts were supposed to be delivered today or tomorrow. And those are kind of shop sweatshirts, but they are crazy limited run. I know a lot of you guys bought them, so I want to make sure that I announce that there. They should be here tomorrow. There are some extra ones. We ordered a little bit extra. God, we're already getting heckled. Scott Smith already in there. And then Brock, my God, guys, I give you guys a minute to get involved so you don't miss anything. And you're just harassing me. Don't worry. The scap is right there. I haven't opened it yet. Brock, I will get to it in a minute so you guys can see it. We should welcome our guests first. So today we are going to be discussing, does 9 dives make you an advanced diver? From what I have talked to, many of the instructors don't feel that way, but they kind of teach that way a little bit. And I think that allows for some misconceptions, and we're going to see some opinions from a lot of different people. So right now we're going to welcome Bill, Natalie, and James to the stream. I'm going to bring in Bill and Natalie and James. Here we go. We got everybody. What's up, everybody?
Good evening.
Hi.
Howdy. How are we all doing?
Good.
Good evening. Nat is always loud as usual. She's got a great echo there. I love it. Nat is empowering the room. So before I get harassed, I'm going to open my bottle of whiskey because I know Brock, Scott, Matt Glass, Eric are all going to freaking harass the crap out of me. So let me get this started before they start. So how are you guys all doing tonight?
Good.
Good. Bill, you're good?
Yeah, man. Hanging in there, having a good time. So excited for this conversation.
Good. James, I'm glad you could join us. I know you had to rearrange some stuff. I appreciate that.
I did. I want you to know you're going to get a bad email from all my rugby mates. I'm supposed to be out there running around.
Rugby mates. Oh, good. Jeez. That's no good.
All to you.
I love it. Too funny. So anyways, cheers to you guys. I got my whiskey. I don't know if you guys got a drink or not, but cheers, everybody. Beautiful.
Cheers.
That is damn good. Yeah, that's little Scapa Flow whiskey. Can't hurt anything, right? Oh, Jesus. They're all starting. So good conversation tonight. Let's go through, maybe people don't know. We're going to start with Bill, since you're a complete newcomer to the show.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit of your background, bud.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. And thank you guys so much for having me. Coming to you live from Eleuthera, Bahamas. And if you don't know where that is, it's just due east from Nassau. So country is currently back on quarantine, lockdown, kind of. We're surfing the wave. But essentially what I do down here is I'm a research scientist at a field station. So my specialty is in marine biology, coastal ecology. And a bit of my background with diving is I am a greenhorn. I'm an advanced open water diver, currently working on my rescue, but I hope to lend some insight into what that means from a newcomer's perspective. So, yeah, I've taught marine ecology methods, scientific diving, all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Excellent. Great. Nat, we had you on 2 weeks ago, so why don't you give us a rundown again for anybody that's new, since we got some good viewership right now.
Oh, I'm Natalie Gibb, and I live in Mexico. So Quintana Roo, Mexico, the state that has Cancun and Playa del Carmen and Tulum in it. And we are not on lockdown, so that's
Jealous.
And I'm a full-time cave diver. I'm a cave explorer, and I own a dive center called Under the Jungle, where we teach cave diving.
Nice. Very good. James, you can go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'll just put up there for you while you're there. So, James, why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of you?
I don't have the Cramps. The Cramps just happens to be one of my all-time favorite bands. That's all. But I'm from Metro Detroit, Michigan, and I've been living the scuba life pretty much my whole life since I was 16. I've been doing everything I can my whole life to not ever have to get a real job. And it's done me well up until COVID. COVID's really screwed me up. So since this happened, like, our state's been in pretty hardcore lockdown, and I'm not officially fully back to work yet. So I'm kind of in a scramble of what the next move is, but we're playing it out, seeing what's happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, you got an extra plug there. Come on, you forgot your Brando's going to be so disappointed. Come on, man. Jeez.
Oh, sorry. Trying to be humble. And I'm one of the co-hosts of the Great Dive Podcast. If anybody's heard of the Great Dive Podcast, we have a lot of fun, and we got a really awesome shark story coming up this week. If anybody's interested.
Oh, nice. Good deal. That's great.
A lot of blood and gore and horror, and it's going to be really fun.
I love it. See, now you got the rugby guys coming after me, and Brando's going to start freaking harassing me too. You're just going to make me hitless. Jeez. All right. So let's get at it. So essentially, when we start talking about some of the major agencies and the major way of doing things, you see open water going straight into advanced and straight into, and maybe there's a nitrox involved in there, but for tried and true, the way things have been taught and the way I started teaching was you do open water, and next weekend we have an advanced class, and you're going to go into that advanced class next, and then there's rescue, and then either you're a dive professional or I can sell you some other classes maybe. Like that is how I used to teach. That is it. So I think that, and from having conversations with a lot of people, is that linearity of the education program starts to cause issues where suddenly I'm advanced and then I go into rescue. I was just talking about this today. You go into rescue and suddenly you haven't done any more real underwater skills. Great course, great course, but you haven't done any more, like James, you're doing a buoyancy clinic. Like you haven't done any more real true buoyancy. You went to 66 feet. Well, I've taught a class where we went to 66 feet, 67 feet. Here's your deep part of that class. Do a triangle or square, not even triangle. That's too hard. Do a square, look at a fish, and do it at night. And then, all right, swim through a ring. Here's your advanced card. You're good to go. And then they think they're advanced and then have issues and stop diving because they don't feel they're advanced. So, Bill, coming from your perspective, we'll go to the student perspective because you were a fresh student on it. How did you feel coming out of advanced, and what issues might you have had immediately following that?
Yeah, so just kind of, gauging the field, what we've got here with our other panelists. I think I'm going to tend to agree with you guys very much part of the way. My background with diving was very atypical. So I first came down here to the Bahamas in 2017. And it was the need to facilitate scientific diving. So I was, again, brand new, fresh out of it. And my instructor, he had a very different approach, I think, from the normal PADI or SDI kind of approach, where we had 6 months to really hammer the skills. So for me, right off the bat, and I think we'll get into this a lot in this conversation, was step number one, buoyancy. And once you're finished with that, more buoyancy and buoyancy. And we had the luxury of having months upon time to really perfect that. And that really came from the need from the work that we were doing. So again, with my background with the more scientific research style diving, at that time we were doing a bonefish telemetry project. And here in the Bahamas, bonefish are an extremely important recreational fishery. They say by the time fishermen come down and they catch one single fish, that represents a $3,000 investment to that local economy, one single fish. So the project was looking at tracking the motions and the movement of these fish. And what we had to do was catch bonefish on the fly, implant them with a passive acoustic telemetry transponder. And then from that, we had to install hydrophones to the benthic area and to the bottom of the sea. We had about 50 stations, and that went down to about 50 to 60 feet. So again, as a new diver, that seems pretty, pretty crazy, but we had to go down, make sure that trim was perfect, make sure that we knew where all of our components were and everything was streamlined. So again, kind of to abbreviate that statement, what it was we had to have it to a higher level than just the normal PADI or SDI kind of certification. So yeah, I really benefited from that, I think.
Yeah, so that was more the mentor style, right? So that's what we do a lot with our scientific divers and stuff like that, is that more mentoring type of style that you're, even if you are getting advanced, that you're not going next weekend to do it. You did a lot of work and a lot of mentoring to get to the point where you're at and then becoming advanced. Natalie, what are you seeing down in the caves and caverns? Maybe you're not, well, maybe you are with the cenote seeing advanced open water divers or advanced adventure divers coming down, seeing you.
I don't really generally work with people who are doing like open water anything. Usually the first time I see people are when they are already experienced enough to be curious about doing a cave course. That's why they're coming doing a cavern course with me. So I was an open water instructor for several years.
Yep.
And so I think I would say two things about the advanced open water course. I would say it's misnamed and it sets a bad precedent.
Okay.
So to start with, I think like there's absolutely, in my opinion, if you just want to have people learn to use a compass after the open water course, nothing wrong with doing that. But calling it an advanced course then is going to lead people to think they're advanced divers, which in my personal opinion, with 9 dives, you're not, right? But I don't necessarily see that there's something terribly, terribly wrong with letting people get sort of a wider idea of what's possible with diving, because it's going to pique their interest. So I don't think it's necessarily an absolutely terrible thing to do. However, I think that having people just go from course to course right away and making it a course as opposed to like adventure dives or something is starting to set sort of a bad precedent, because what you see is these people that just go course to course to course to course without getting any experience in between. And if you want to be good at something, you can't just take the course and then do it. You have to practice. And so I would say that by setting this precedent, if you just go from one course to another course to another course, now we are getting to the snowball of, oh, you've done rescue, now you should do dive master, then you should do instructor, like, blah, 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 blah. And of course, it doesn't always go that way. The other thing about not taking time in between courses, though, it's the same thing we see down here with people who want to just come down and do full cave. Yep. Like immediately, like you're not going to get as much out of a course if you haven't like really mastered the skills from the previous course. So like if I teach you to back kick and then I take you into a cavern course that same week, now you're worried about back kicking away from a tie-off point with the reel, but you're also worried about making the tie-off. So now you're handling a lot of information at once. And I feel like that doesn't let you master the information as much. Now, is that a concern with open water to advance? Maybe not, right? Maybe, hey, it's okay. You teach them to use a compass, they're going to use that open water. But I think it's more the precedent that we're setting. Like, okay, you did advance. Let's go for rescue. Are you going to be a good rescue diver? No. But again, like rescue's kind of good right away as well in some sense, because it teaches people to stop staring at themselves and to look around a little bit more. And I do like the concept of trying to get people to watch around them and try to have a better sort of situational awareness and global awareness than they typically do coming out of an open water course. So somewhere in there, though, there's a line to be drawn where you need to stop and just get some experience. So where that is, maybe it can be personal as well. But are you a truly advanced diver with 9 dives? I mean, I don't think anybody thinks they are. So maybe we just need to change the name.
Yeah, exactly. So that is one of the possibilities, 100%. So that's one of the things when I switched over to SDI that was nice, because you can go right into rescue if you've got some experience. So you don't have to do this linearity. You can kind of do a zigzaggy type of thing. And that was and I know other organizations are similar to that, and but I don't have experience teaching with them. So James, last but not least, what is your opinionation on this? What can you add to the conversation?
Well, actually, what you just said is actually a pretty cool concept, and I think it actually makes more sense to, if you really think of the name Advanced Open Water, I think it makes much more sense to have that title after you have a rescue certification than before you have a rescue certification. Because how could you really be advanced if you can barely understand the concept of self-rescue, let alone helping out another diver other than doing a tank valve tow? It's hard to really consider yourself an advanced diver. So like Natalie said a moment ago, there's certainly a strong consideration for the entire heads of these agencies in the industry to really reconsider the name of that certification and where it places divers. And I think there's a really strong spot for like what she mentioned about, I'm not against getting people into more classes and getting them a taste of what night diving is and what deeper than 60 feet is. And a lot of people in the cold water really only had to go to 50 feet because it's cold water, so you automatically get the extra 10 to cover your 60 or however you work it out. But the point is, you're really lacking in the reality of that open water, of anything near advanced, let alone adding 5 more dives to the picture. So having like an experienced diver level, a more experienced diver level, sure. But
Open water too.
Yeah.
What's that?
Open water level 2.
Right, exactly. See, that makes way more sense to me for sure. Like, because you don't get that really in anything else. You know, you don't get you know, if you're going skydiving, there's a requirement for experience before you move on to different levels, and nobody's gonna take, you know, the guy who showed up one weekend in you know, in Vail for an introduction to skiing onto a black diamond advanced hill that following weekend. It doesn't happen in any other industry other than scuba, it seems like.
And diving people do this all the time. They're like, oh yeah, you give me a tip, I take you to 100 feet. You've got 4 dives. It'll be so cool, trust me. You're like, ugh.
Hey, blue hole, dive 5. Come on, it's perfectly fine. You know.
And I get it on the consumer end, like if I'm the new idiot, you know, going down, and the dive master goes, for another $100, I'll take you to do this super kick-ass dive. To me, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's just gonna make me that in my logbook is what's gonna make me super awesome, because I've already been to 130 feet.
Yeah.
If you have no frame of reference, like as a new open water diver, I certainly did stupid things that I wouldn't do now, but I had no idea that they were wrong, because you have the open water book, which is super basic.
Yep.
You've been handed this card saying you're okay to do this now, and you're like, all right, so I'm okay to do this now. Like my training's gonna get me, and then no.
And that's what causes the fear later on, right? You have one incident and you go, oh my God, I don't know what I don't know. Hopefully that kind of clicks, and then you're like, so many people are like, I'm done then. This is way too much. I'm advanced, but I can't handle this. So therefore this must be way above me. I must be bad at this, which you see a lot of. Matt Glass, interesting. Open water, opener water, openest water, open water Tokyo Drift. I think those are fairly good ones. I like that, Matt. Well done.
Can I ask Matt if he wants to start an agency with me? That sounds pretty good. I'm in.
That sounds good. Aren't you already starting an agency or part of a major? Somebody else.
I love that word that you used. It was based in reality. Right. And this is something, as open water divers, they get into the system. It's all been kind of manicured for them, pool-like conditions, or in a pool. And I think this is something we're going to probably get into further in this conversation. But it's, what is this actual reality that you're going to see in an open water situation, or when you start to get more advanced? And kind of going with what you guys were saying, was it kind of dials me back to like my driver's ed course, where I remember my instructor goes, listen, you're not going to be like an adequate driver until 10 years down the road, after you've had a car crash, after you've like dealt with all the situations that you're going to deal with. So again, kind of going to the heart, the core of this conversation is, after 9 dives, have you experienced everything that you need to see to consider yourself an advanced diver? And my opinion is nay, it's not.
And
I think that's because of the foundation's the opposite, right? So either the foundation of your educational model is experience building, or the foundation of your model is, we have to check off 24 skills.
In a week's time before you get off on this vacation.
Right? And you know that when the core of your business is new student acquisition, it's always going to be based on checking off the skills so we can start up the next class.
Yeah, and that presents. So when it comes down to the financials of it, we always talk about, I've talked to so many instructors, they're like, oh no, they're not advanced. I agree with you. They're not advanced after 9 dives. Then you see them post on Facebook, like, congrats to our advanced divers that got certified last weekend. You're like, but you just told me that you don't think that that's right. And they're like, well, this is what and they're selling it. Oh yeah, let's go for the next weekend. Let's go the next weekend. Let's go the next weekend. It's like, well, so we switched it up at my shop, where we're like, somebody comes in and goes, I want to get my advanced. Why? The one question changed the entire thing. Why? What do you want to do? What is your goal? Tell me your goal. Why are you here? And they're like, well, I'm bad at navigating. Then let me teach you how to navigate. or I want to go deeper. All right, let's get some experience and let me teach you how to go deeper. Let's not do a sampler platter because you already know what you want. I agree with Natalie to the point where if you need a sampler platter and you want to get some experience, let's go do a sampler platter and get you some experience and see what's going down. If you truly want to learn something, tell me and I will teach you or find someone to teach you if somebody's better at it than I am. Somebody did bring up, let's throw this up here. I think buoyancy course should be part of the open water course and not an a la carte class. This essential skill and isn't enough to work toward mastery. There's been a lot of conversation. I've been part of it with I know I harp on the SDI thing and that's because I'm involved in them significantly. So we did SDI. We did 2 presentations or things like this, Facebook Lives on neutral buoyancy training in open water. And we do everything. And I believe James is on the same one there, and I'm not sure, Nat, how you taught. Bill, you're a student, so I got to leave you out for a second. But we teach neutrally buoyant in trim the entire time. We are now including dry suit and nitrox from day one with our open water classes because we think that's how it should be taught. So buoyancy is the catamount to what we're doing and really working on. Somebody answered a question on the phone today and they were like, well, how do you kick? We're like, frog kick. That's it. We're frog kicking. We're going to teach you other ones, but you're going to frog kick a hell of a lot. How do you guys feel about, we'll go backwards now. James, how do you feel about teaching buoyancy in the open water course and how far do you go with it?
I'm gonna read this here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to that quote you just had by Kevin about I lost it. I can't find it.
I'll put it up on the screen for you.
But anyways, but it was like that one right there. Like it's not an a la carte class. It's an essential skill. There's not enough time in the open water course to master it. I think that's just flat out wrong. Because it is 100% teachable. It's just the focus and what the instructor is using as a premise to set the bar for what he's doing as education. And the way I teach is it's the first thing we do is we teach breathing, we teach calmness. I teach people how to find a peaceful place in that 3-dimensional world. I don't expect them to, at an open water level, have the buoyancy control and the trim and the propulsion techniques that Natalie would want them to have to go and pass a cave class. But it's a huge different world than just going completely negatively buoyant, learning a bunch of skills, and then in the last 15 minutes of class going, hey, by the way, before we hit the open water, we should talk about neutral buoyancy. For me, it's you learn to be somewhat in control. You don't have to be perfect when you're just a beginner, but you should understand that, oh my God, I just bumped the bottom. I'm aware of that, and I'm staying away from, I'm rising all the way to the surface. I should be aware of that and controlling that with my breathing. And once they know that, then we go, okay, by the way, this is a regulator. You got to take it out. You got to put it back in. This is the mask. We're going to flood it and clear it. And it's a completely different game for how the diver exits the water. Doesn't mean that an open water diver has got tech level skills and perfection, but they know when they're doing something that's destructive to the environment. Whereas somebody who's learned everything negatively going on the bottom, they just take standing and walking around in their fins as a normal procedure.
So I think we need to go back to so we're talking about second course, which means that I think you use terminology. I use the same terminology, the foundation, James. So you talk about that foundation and getting that proper foundation and then working up from there. Kevin's retorting was saying, I'm not saying it's not teachable. I'm saying combine that specialty with open water. And that's kind of what we're saying is that.
A lot of us do. Yeah, a lot of us do.
Yep. So I think you need to take a second because I've heard you talk about this before and you skimmed over it a little bit, but you do something unique with your foundation. And I don't know if everybody kind of picked up on it. Can you talk just for quick about your general foundation on how you start an open water class? Because I think that gives a good look into how you actually teach a class and go forward with it.
Well, it starts with no mask, first off. It gets somebody comfortable with having their face in the water because so many people come to scuba for the very reason of, grandma's taking me on a cruise and we're going to stop by Cozumel. So I just saw this thing on Discovery Channel, so I got to go do a dive.
Sure.
Yet, they're afraid of the water. They almost drowned when they were 7 years old, or whatever the case is. So, mass clearing becomes like one thing that they have to get over, and they muscle through it on just so much so as they can pass. But that's not mastery. And for me, like as an instructor who has to look myself in the mirror and go to sleep at night, I want to know that, a year from now, they're not going to fall back and have an issue. And the problem that so many people have is it's because they learn all these skills, and a lot of instructors push off that mass clearing. They push off that mass removal because they know that they can see it from day one that the student's going to have a problem with it. So, I mean, I've taught, and I've taught instructors that have, mentored along with me. Nip it in the bud right from the beginning. First thing you do is no mask. Learn to breathe with no mask. Learn that breath control, and then you'll never ever have an issue for the rest of the class. Of when it comes to flooding and clearing, or when it comes to mask removal and replacement, you've got that worked out of the way. So that's the first thing. Then we go from there, like in that same process, talking about breathing and how breathing is buoyancy control. And we just learn that, just breathing from a regulator. And then we throw gear on and then start doing scuba skills.
Yep. So I think that's what was lost. And the thing is, I know that you guys start without scuba gear, and that everybody's like, whoa, wait, no scuba gear. Like, yeah. So that's we start with scuba gear on, but no mask the exact same way, and creating that foundation, which then makes. I think somebody mentioned it earlier. There's been a lot of comments, but somebody makes the comments earlier of, well, it depends on the diver. Yeah, it depends on the diver, because if I do a really, really good job, or my instructors or whoever is instructing them does a really good job of putting a foundation down, advanced open water or advanced becomes a little bit better, because it's easier to deal with, because you've given them more skills to start off with, and created that different foundation.
And the reason I start with no gear is because I want them to learn buoyancy through the breathing, not through a piece of equipment, which is when you've got all the equipment on, they use that little button to control buoyancy, rather than themselves to control buoyancy. So when they understand that, that gear that they're wearing is really just carrying the weight to compensate for their suit and compensate for the gas that's full in the bottle, it makes a different understanding of what their breathing is doing.
Absolutely. Natalie, how much are you seeing from people that are coming down to you guys? You might filter them ahead of time, but how much are you seeing people that are coming down to you with advanced open water ready to go for the cenotes? Or do you even have any by you? You have some by you, right?
I mean, I don't take those people. I refuse them. I actually turn away. So there's a couple different things for the people who are familiar with my world. So you can go do cavern and cave training and such, or down in Mexico, we now have this glorious thing called a guided cavern or a guided tour, which is when you take people with absolutely zero overhead experience or training in a single tank and swim them through the cenotes, just in the cavern zone, which is an area which is big and has a lot of light. So I do these, but we don't do them. We have like some really minimal requirements. So they have to have at least 25 dives, which is nothing. They have to have dived within the last 6 months, and they have to be able to, here's the trick, hold a horizontal, neutrally buoyant position in the open water of the cenote as we swim around. And if they don't, I refuse to take them in. We also make them do mask clearing and breathe from one of our long hoses before they come in. So we get a lot of questions like, hey, like, okay, so I want to do a cavern tour. I'm like, great, read this paper about what you need to be able to do this. And then they're like, oh, I don't have that. I'm like, well, you shouldn't go in the cavern, or nobody should take you into the cavern. But unfortunately, people down here look at guided cavern tours and cenotes as an upsell to the open water course. So people on their 5th dive in their entire lives are swimming through a cavern, which is exactly against the safe diving statement, safe diving practices statement of understanding they have signed in the open water course, right? So for me, in my opinion, the guided cenote tour has one purpose, The purpose is you're thinking about doing cave training, you have some level of technical background, and you want to check out my shop and me and see if you actually want to do this with me. And if you like the environment. That's like my opinion with what it should be. And that's usually what we get for me. However, we have seen you see the trains of people like bicycle kicking through the caverns now. And it's really horrifying. Like if someone is lost, they're going to die. Like there's no hope, right? It's over. So in my opinion, it shouldn't be done this way, but it is. It's not even advanced open water. They're literally taking people from their open water course straight into the cenotes. And in my opinion, that's completely negligent. And it's absolutely horrifying. Like, I think you should be pretty up there before you swim into an overhead environment.
Right. So that's a whole lot to unwrap there. We're going to bring Danny Rivera in a second because he just joined us. There is so much you've got going on there that rides right along the advanced open water type of statement and philosophy. And, maybe you are capable of going to the deep water, and you're definitely getting experience, and it's a good class. Like, I commend you for taking more classes, but the cenote thing, like you said, is just plain dangerous. I mean, that's just, I commend you for what you do for vetting people before they get in there, which is excellent.
We found about like 60% of the people that acquired to do cavern tours with us. It's horrifying.
Yeah. I almost caught Danny licking a bottle of wine. I just waited to try and get him to the right exact point. Danny, I will bring you in once you're here, but I'm going to let you talk in 1 second. Bill, what are you seeing from the scientific perspective of people coming down? Do they have experience? I mean, you got people coming up underneath you, right? That are coming in. Are they coming in with advanced open water, and what are they like as divers?
Yeah, so the way the kind of system works down here is we bring in a lot of intern support and a lot of intern help. And, with CVs, when they're applying for these internships, everybody's like, I'm an advanced open water diver. I've, logged, 50 dives. I'm advanced. I know everything. And then kind of what Natalie was saying there, you see them still doing the bicycle kick and still like dropping to the bottom and hitting the coral. And it really makes you wonder, like, what was that certification actually like proving at that point? So from what we see here, I think it's definitely one of those things where you get people that haven't dove in 6, 12, a year, 2 years, but they still carry that kind of, that level of saying I'm an advanced open water diver. And for us, we really do have to stress, okay, this is the standards for what we're looking for. As interns, when they come in, they're also supervising island school students that we have here. So high school students that are going through their open water course. And we really have to make sure that they meet that criteria to say, okay, listen, you are setting the example. So demonstrate a mask clear or swim, a lap without a mask. And they go, well, I haven't done that since my open water. So I think this is where, again, we're going to start to go into this conversation is that what are these criteria to say that like you can prove and sustain this fact that you are an advanced open water diver? And same thing with buoyancy, right? Okay, it'll prove to me that you can maintain that level of trim. Well, what do you mean by trim? Hold on a second. This should be like, ingrained in your brain at this point. And it all stems back to the breath control that James was talking about and just making sure that you have mastery. And this is my opinion on the fact is that if you're going to say that you are an advanced open water diver, you should know your gear front to back, sideways, up and down. You should have these skills really ingrained how to navigate these complex marine ecosystems. And I think this is where Danny's going to start to talk a little bit about fresh versus saltwater and all that. But we have fragile coral ecosystems here, corals, elk horns, staghorn, brains, all that good stuff. And when you have people that are, staff positions that are still kicking over fan corals and elk horns, it doesn't really bode well with somebody that also has that level of an advanced open water diver. And again, I think this all comes from experience, going back to what James was saying with the real world. What are these actual ecosystems that you're traversing? Or as Natalie has pointed out, like in these cave ecosystems, it's not a matter of just checking the boxes. It's a matter of life and death. It's a matter of making sure that you can get your ass back out of this cave. So, yeah.
And I think the terminology we always utilize for that is certified versus qualified. You want qualified people, not certified people. The certifications, I can give you a card. I always tell people we've got a card printer in the shop because we can print cards with our organization. So I go, you want a card? I'll print you a random ass thing. I mean, one of the guys from headquarters sent me a drunk dialing jackass card because apparently I was drunk dialed them. So I mean, it happens. I am certified in drunk dialing. I mean, it just is what it is. I'm not sure where that falls in the whole. I think it's just between rescue and advanced, but it just is what it is.
Probably one of those by the end of this.
Yeah, seminar. Make one. I can just send it out to your after the pandemic stuff that you guys do. That freaking happy hour you have. I'll just send it to everybody in there. So yeah, I haven't seen Eric Fine yet, by the way. Why hasn't he harassed us yet? I don't know what he's doing. So yeah, apparently we lost Danny. I saw a flash of lightning, then the lights went out, and then he disappeared. So they do that on Long Island, though. So that's how they exit. So what are some of the potential solutions? I'm going to go backwards again from what I see. What are the possible kind of solutions you see for this, James? Go ahead.
Well, certainly the biggest solution I would say is the industry and needs to be pressured by the community of an acceptance of, or I shouldn't say an acceptance, but a requirement for experience over just the card itself. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times out in the Great Lakes, there's people that want to go do a dive that's in 80 feet, 100 feet plus, and they're restricted if they only have an open water, and they have to go get their advanced. Not so that they have the ability to actually perform that level of a dive well, because they still lose buoyancy and cork to the surface from 40 feet or whatever is the case. It's just they're satisfying the legal requirement, for that liability waiver. If an attorney were to say, how dare you let a open water only diver onto this shipwreck that's in 75 feet of water?
Right. So that's the whole, I went to 67 feet, also did a night dive and used my compass a little bit, and then did 2 other dives so that I could dive deep scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
right. I mean, there's a big difference. I mean, and this is I think the issue with the majors versus some of the smaller agencies out there is the majors are teaching people regardless of level. And I would go so far as to say, even into some of the early leadership level, it's still teaching you to follow a dive master at the end of the day. Really not teaching you to be self-sufficient and major teaching people. I don't mean regardless of level. I would go so far as to say even being able to really do the dive yourself and not just be handheld from beginning to end.
Yeah. And I think, and that's following a dive master that might have been certified 2 weeks ago, from what I've heard in some scenarios. Like they're breaking it. Here's your certification card. You've been out for 2 weeks. Go lead these people who got certified last week. Yeah. So all right.
Yeah, I've known advanced divers that were dive masters, in the islands and places that they never officially went through. They just hung around the shop long enough, around the boats long enough, but they just were short a dive master. You've been here long enough.
We see this all the time down here, man.
Guys, and then the next thing you know, 2 years later, they're still, an advanced certification and they're a dive master. So what really delineates the title?
As scary as this is, Danny Rivera needs to catch up. So means I need to give the floor to him. Oh God. Danny, I'm assuming you've caught up on the drinking and now you need to catch up on the conversation.
Does that mean we should all take a drink?
That means we should all take a drink so we can catch it. Danny was licking a wine glass.
Yeah. What's the topic? What are we talking about?
Sometimes in scuba, who knows? I have no idea.
Why you are not a advanced diver in 9 dives, Danny?
Here's the thing. So you guys have all been going around agreeing with each other and all this stuff. So I'm going to propose. I'm going to play devil's advocate in all this.
Okay.
That's what I do.
I know.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
It is.
All right. I want everybody here.
Natalie, did you hear that? Wait, let's make sure Natalie hears. Okay, just making sure you heard it.
I like Danny already.
Yeah, come on, Danny.
All right. If you're an open water diver, I want you to raise your hand. Open water diver.
Oh,
Yeah.
only.
No,
Only
all
or
right.
have been.
If you're an advanced open water diver, I want you to raise your hand. Okay. If you're a rescue diver, I want you to raise your hand. All right.
You just like my hands.
If you're a dive master, I want you to raise your hand. If you're an instructor, I want you to raise your hand. If you're a technical instructor, I want you to raise your hand. If you're a technical rebreather instructor, I want you to raise your hand. No, all right. I thought that was going to go all the way. All right. So, my point is,
We had to stop somewhere.
so all of us, all 5 of us,
Well,
in the top like one.
Bill is only advanced open water.
All right. All right. So everybody aside from Bill. So there's 4 out of 5 of us. So 4/5 out of us are in the top like 5% of divers all over the world.
No, I'm a shit diver.
So now if
what I am.
The worse you realize you are.
we're all in the top 95% of all divers in the world, all right, based off of certification, who are we to say that somebody is a diver, an advanced diver, or whatever certification? I think that as we progress in this in this entire industry, we tend to look down on all the other certifications that there are. So I'm a rec instructor. And so when somebody does 1 or 2 or 3 or 50 rec dives, when do they become a rec diver? Do they become a rec diver when I say they become a rec diver, or do they become a rec diver when they dive a wreck? And what's the definition? What are we holding people to? And should we be holding people to such high a level when if somebody dives once a year, are they a diver? Because I would say if they told me that they're a diver, I'd completely agree with the fact that they're a diver. But to say or not to say that they're either advanced or not advanced, I think that's arbitrary. And I think that we're throwing out these terms that mean absolutely nothing. I think people should just go diving and enjoy it. And if
Danny, I would agree with you up until the point that you have people dying on wrecks that are making fundamental mistakes that they never should have gotten to that point of even taking that class without that being corrected. That's the issue, in my opinion.
all right, well, more people die in a Florida mini season on reefs than they do in wrecks. So should there be a different level of reef diver?
I have seen the Florida mini season. Most of those people should be stopped at the dock. Natalie has something to say. Go, Nat.
Danny wants the definition, so let's play the game. I would say you get the certification when you can safely and independently do that dive with another similarly trained buddy without an instructor or dive master present. That would be my definition. So if you have dives in your life and you haven't dived in a year, and you can go out with another buddy that's an open water diver, with the help of a dive master instructor, whatever that environment happens to be, I would say yes, you are a open water diver. If you can cave dive without a guide safely and independently, which is my goal for my students, I don't want them. If they need to hire me as a guide because they feel like they need me, I have failed my job and shouldn't have passed them. So any of these things, I would say, when they can do it by themselves with another buddy at their same level, that's when they count as an open water diver, an advanced open water. So when we were talking about the advanced course, we were saying, Danny missed this bit, we were saying it's a bit of a misnomer because it's kind of experienced dives, like go check it out. So the problem I have with the advanced isn't that it's taught, but that they're saying advanced. So like, what does that mean? Does it mean you can go to 80 feet by yourself with a buddy? Yes or no? If you can safely plan an 80-foot dive with another similar certified buddy, you get to go deep diving. You blah, 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 blah. Advanced is a smorgasbord of things. So it's kind of hard to just say you are advanced. Advanced at, it's like I think Jason was saying. Advanced at what?
Yeah.
Advanced at navigation, wonderful. Advanced at this, wonderful.
Right.
So that would be where I would draw the line, Danny.
And
what I will say though, if you have somebody who has 9 dives, which is probably 4 or 5 more than most open water divers, in those relative terms, they are more advanced than an open water diver. So
yeah,
they
you
are
can say it relatively for sure. Absolutely. I am more advanced than you, but now you put a like qualifier on it, right?
Yeah.
So the problem here is what is advanced, right? I think that's what Dan is pushing at.
All of the agencies. So if you teach through PADI, if you teach through SDI, if you teach through INTD, if you teach through I'm trying to think whoever UTD,
whatever it is, yeah.
All right, so their qualifier is anything more than 4 dives, because that's
open water.
Is open water. Anything more than 4 dives, you have now experience in advanced diving techniques. So why are we putting the definition on saying, well, you need to do 50, you need to do 30?
We were arguing that
no, that's fine.
That's what it was, yeah. So, like, yeah, they got the card, but do they have? We're saying, like, where do we draw the line if we count them or not? I personally,
if you issued them the card, you gave them the card, so you can't say that they have it. You can't say you have the card. You have to do more. You certified them.
Yeah. So, but then they have the card. But then
I gotta plug in. Keep going.
Oh, you just rile everybody up and leave. That's Danny.
As we transition, I'm sorry.
That's a cheap walk on a Natalie. That's pretty rough.
He'll be back in a minute.
As we transition, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I think one of the things that Danny and both Natalie are kind of getting at is that we have this notion of like personal diver responsibility. And again, not as an instructor, not knowing what that criterion is to certify somebody. In my experience, when I was certified as a open water diver, they said, listen, you now have the ability to go out, plan your own dives, do what you have to do. And like, you don't have to get a guide. It's probably a good idea to do so, but like, you are a diver. And I've had a dive boat full of 20 students ready to go down for a marine ecology class. And, you know, they're still fussing around putting their like regulators on the first stage and the tanks backwards. And I'm like, this is your personal responsibility. And if you're not taking it seriously, I'm not going to. And I've literally told people, you're staying on the boat, you're surface support now, because you just don't have that mastery of those skills. Reassess. You have to, because this is a life or death matter.
Yeah.
I would just like to thank Bill for dropping the first F-bomb. Thank you very much.
Yeah. There it is. He normally goes,
now let's get to a real discussion.
Normally goes south way earlier than this.
To where Danny was going and where Natalie was going, the thing that she mentioned is, yes, there's no problem with you coming in to take a wreck diving class. The problem is the fact that you're passing it, but you don't have the ability to get back in the water and do that same dive again on your own without being handheld through the dive. And that's what sets people up for doing a dive in a training location and then going to someplace like where she's at, or trying to go on a deeper shipwreck or go on a deeper wall dive where they really don't have the ability to hold their buoyancy, and they're in 170 feet of water on the Bloody Bay wall, climbing hand over hand, ripping sea fans off of the wall to try to climb back up because they're shit-faced, narked out, and fucked up.
I don't know any other.
That's the stuff you see. Whereas when you have, you know, a real class, that it's not that what brings you into the class to get that wreck diving certification, it's having the instructor that can have you do an experience dive at the end, right? You know, so, you know, Bill, you just mentioned that you got that thing that you got to be able to get out there and go and do it. And the one caveat that I would say that I would like my instructor, if I were you to have done, was to say, now you're going to go out there and do it, and I'm just going to shadow you.
Yeah.
Right. So I've shown you. So prove to me that you can do this. I'm not going to get involved. I'm going to be there in case you totally screw it all up. But this is your dive. Show me that you can do this 100% on your own. If you can do that at 9 dives, sweet. Give them an advance card. Go for it.
Then they can have their open water.
That's not what we're getting. Sorry to interrupt you, Natalie. What was that one?
I said if they can go do it on their own, then they can have the open water then. But somebody somewhere has to draw the line. How do I have like advanced hypoxic trimix rebreather dives that can't do a proper frog hit coming in for a cave course? This happens. And you're like, what do you mean? how do you get to this level? But the people don't cut them off and like say something. So what I'm hearing from you guys is really great. Like Bill's like, you can't get your gear together. You can't go on the dive. Wonderful. So you have to cut it somewhere. There's some point where if you don't have the skills or you maybe no longer have the skills expected from that level of training, somebody's got to cut you off for your safety.
Exactly. As
So
safe.
Let me play devil's advocate again.
So you're just permanent. Just change your name to Devil's Advocate, Danny. Jesus Christ.
Advocate Diablo. This was actually a real position in the Roman Catholic Church. That when somebody was accused of heresy, they needed somebody to be the advocate or be the lawyer for the devil.
That's great.
Really?
So this is a real thing.
Is that where the term comes from?
That is where the term comes from. It's a advocacy Diablo.
And they say drinking makes you stupid.
Yeah, I didn't realize you were so well versed in this, Danny.
You're already wrong in everybody's world because you're on the side of heresy. So, but everybody needs a fair defense.
Yeah.
So, to Natalie's point, where we need to cut people off where we feel they need to be cut off because they're not safe. Obviously, whoever it is, they got to a certain point, right? That hypoxic trimix rebreather instructor got to the point where he can't put his gear together, but he has the card. So somebody's standards somewhere were lacking. So how do we, as professionals, say this is what the actual level is? Because my mastering buoyancy might be different than Bill's. Might be different than James. It's definitely different than Jason because he doesn't care and he's terrible at it. So, what do we do? What do
Shots
we
fired.
It would be pretty easy. So you can set the standards for the training that you're going to do, which is what I do. I say you have to be able, like coming into this course, you need to be able to do the air share neutrally buoyant, so you can't go up and down more than 1 meter. I can get you better than that. You can't go up and down more than 1 meter or move 1
3
meter
feet for you Americans. 3, that's a huge amount of difference.
You can't go up and down more than 3 feet or move out of the 3 foot square. And if you do that, I'm still going to, I will eventually start cave training with you, but we have I need to get you up to speed before we can start, basically. It's my job as an instructor to get them good. That's my job, but I'm not going to take them into the overhead if they can't stay still.
So Natalie, why 3 feet rather than 1 foot?
1 foot seems really mean and 4 feet seems like a lot. And so that's my personal standard. So that's what you do. So you can do that for a course though. You can set it and the agencies could also set it, right?
So why don't
How do you have a
also,
tape measure just sitting there?
In my opinion, the agencies, so this is one of the things that's lacking with the agencies, should have some entry-level requirements. And they may be arbitrary, but you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start somewhere. So let's say
If it's going to be real.
Huh?
If it's going to be real, yeah, you have to have some standard.
Yeah, there's going to be some arbitrary thing. Maybe it's 4 feet. Maybe it's 1 foot. I think 1 foot would be pretty mean. But you would have to have some sort of level that is set by the agencies where I can tell you as a TDI instructor that if you cannot do this, I will not start the course with you until I coach you to be able.
let me
Listen,
Yeah, so 1.5 up or 1.5 down is what I was saying, which is what I mean.
Natalie, I would say also that the standard gives you as the instructor a way out from somebody that you see they might even have decent buoyancy, but they're missing the bigger picture of the brain and the awareness that you know is going to set them up for some failure down the road, especially at that level that you're talking. But when we come back to just the basic advanced open water, I mean that's what the whole premise of this discussion tonight is, like 9 dives. Does 9 dives make you advanced or not? And when I see people enter a dive master program that are afraid to take their mask off, I see somebody that's going into an instructor school that's having trouble holding buoyancy and trim, right? That can't hold a safety stop at the instructor level. I give you a ton of credit, Danny, for flying this flag of this devil's advocate. You've got some big balls for taking it on.
It's much more interesting with Danny here.
James, I got to tell you, if you have an instructor that can't hold a safety stop, if Natalie, you have a diver that can't take their mask off at any point, if Bill, if you can't do an air share without going up 15 feet, it's your fault. It's your fault as the instructor. It's your fault as a diver. Not doing
it's my fault as an instructor. Someone coming into the class saying they want to take a class and they can't.
Chances are, if you're getting an instructor, if you're getting a dive master, this isn't a brand new student.
He's saying these people are all.
These are people that are coming up within your.
They run through my program the whole entire time. I sell all my shit on eBay tomorrow. I'd be back. I'd go golfing. That's all I do. I would never consider myself a scuba educator whatsoever. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying I carried them from advance. And by the way, let me say that this is a problem with the hierarchy that you just spoke earlier. Is you go right to this industry focus of everybody raise your hand if you're open water, raise your hand if you're advanced, raise your hand if you're rescue, raise your hand if you're dive net. It's the system. Like you've bought into the system. Like full-fledged, you're in it. You're in it to win it. Like that's the system. And what all I'm saying from the beginning is I think the system needs to be rethought.
System is broken.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but I'm saying that when you have a dive master student, chances are those dive master students aren't brand new. Those are students that you've seen before that you took.
That's not true. They come from the Midwest down to Florida and they get their dive master in 5 days all the time. They go down to Bahamas, get their dive master in 5 days. They go to Grand Cayman, they become an instructor in 2 weeks. They go to open water class. It happens every week.
Where are you teaching? I don't know. I don't know you from Matt.
Yeah, I'm in Metro Detroit.
All right, so you've never had a dive master student come to you that you didn't think their skills were up to par?
Oh yeah, for sure. But they've come from all walks of life.
So they were never from your own program.
Sometimes they were. Sometimes they weren't my student, but they were entering a program at the shop that I worked for.
So the shop that you work for, that you taught for, wasn't holding the students up to standards.
They were holding them up to industry standards, yeah. But that's my point. I believe this is why I teach what I teach, which is outside of the industry. That's why I don't, teach, for the regular classes of shop. I teach specialty instruction through UTD nowadays, all private stuff where I can have a student that really wants to do something that's beyond just the big box BS that they know that they can get anywhere else for $199.
I'm gonna again playing devil's advocate. I'm gonna say if you hold a UTD standard to an SDI or a PADI standard, they're gonna be fairly similar for whatever course that they're holding to. So it's not a matter of the actual standard from the agency; it's a matter of the instructor actually holding standards. And
wait, I'm sorry. Did you say that it would be a similar standard?
I think almost identical in a lot of
wait.
I would absolutely agree with you. Okay, so
training location where the instructor is standing on the bottom.
Yes, okay, we've got
not a PADI standard.
guys.
That's in no way, shape, or form is standing on the bottom of PADI standard. That's an instructor being lazy.
No, the industry standard is you have to control buoyancy on the buoyancy portion. Is all the industry standard is.
Really buoyant. And they say you have to have mastery. So what is mastery? And I absolutely agree with you, Danny, that you've got people being like, oh, they were able to do it and checked it off. Like they were physically able with great care while I was holding them in the open water, be able to remove and replace their mask. And they were like, I finished that. What is that? So this is like 12 years ago, when I was an open water instructor, I worked at a dive resort, a big one.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I would refuse to certify people like all the time because my name's on it. So we had like an agreement with the boss, because I was a good instructor, that if on dive 3, I didn't think I'd be able to certify them by dive 4, I should just let them know so they would give them to another instructor to finish the course. Because I wasn't going to pass them or was going to steadfastly refuse to pass them. So this right? And so it is. It's like it's how do you define masculine? How do you define if the person's terrified? Right? These things, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be terrified when they're removing
and so many instructors are really they're really prisoner to the dive shop owner that says we need these people certified by tomorrow. Get them done.
Yeah. And what do you do as the instructor? Either that or you don't have a job. So like it's a big problem. I don't really care. So I told them I refused. And there was other people that would do it, which was equally terrifying. It's like, I don't think this person should do it. And they'd be like, no, we got to, so-and-so will pass them. And I was like, all right, not my name on the card. But really.
Exactly. You don't think there's thousands of instructors throughout the Caribbean that know that they're never going to see that face ever again. Mm-hmm. And the shop owner's going, you got to get them done. You got to give them a card that
everybody does that.
You're lying to yourself if that's not if you don't think that's true.
It's absolutely horrifying.
I have 2 points I just want to bring up really quick. Natalie, you kind of brought up this point that I think it was Kevin, and I apologize if I butcher his last name there, Eismer, at 8:14 he mentioned, he goes, I got my marksman ribbon in the Air Force in 1983. Does that mean I'm still a marksman? So even though you ascertain these potentially arbitrary titles that say you are this diver, you're this qualification, should there be a stipulation as well to say that you've maintained these skills?
It says that in the safe diver, like practice of understanding whatever, blah, 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 for PADI, like if you go for more than 6 months out of the water, you're supposed to take a refresher course.
Yeah.
But they don't enforce it. It's back to Danny saying, do they enforce the standards or not?
These arbitrary titles that say you are this diver, you're this qualification. Should there be a stipulation as well to say that you've
somebody's got Facebook open?
I'm lagging. Hold on.
In the safe diver, like practice of understanding whatever, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but then the other thing is, okay, so I'm in a completely different industry, so it doesn't matter. But if I, as an open water shop, say, hey, anybody who doesn't have a logbook signed within the last 6 months from a dive shop I can recognize needs to do a refresher course, the people are going to go to other shops. So unless the whole industry changes, it's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. One quick question for Bill, because I want to try something really quick. Bill, you are currently an advanced open water diver, yes?
Correct.
How deep are you certified to go?
By PADI regulations, I am certified to go to 120 feet. Right?
Not an advanced.
No.
So this is my exact point on that. Thank you, Bill. I apologize for throwing you up on the pedestal like that. So these misconceptions are exactly what we were talking about with this whole damn thing. It is 100 feet. It is 30 meters. That is it. So everybody is selling this advanced course to try and get people to go to 130 feet or 120 feet and not clarifying. So it's about, a lot of it comes down to the dollar on that, of being like, oh, let me make sure you can go on the next boat, because but that is, if you ask the majority of people who are an advanced open water diver and what their depth is, they're going to tell you, oh, I took the advanced so I can go to 130 feet. I went to 67 feet and looked at a bag of Cheez-Its. So now I can go to 130 feet. That's a good one, by the way, because it's back on the surface interval. Color change shows you the difference. Cheez-Its. You put you can do hot Cheez-Its too. Yeah, that works too. They don't compact as well because they're hot and spicy. But you just clip them off to your BCD, show them color change, and they crackle a little bit, and then you go back up. 68 feet is about perfect, right, Danny?
Yeah, but so if I do that for a student, within standard.
What's that? Go to 68 feet?
I could go to 61 feet. And they're in standard. As long as they see the color.
Oh, yeah, it would be. Yep.
So, and that's within every agency.
Right.
Every agency.
That's why I haven't taught advanced adventure in 2 years.
So the question, Danny, is does that diver that you just certified in perfectly flat, calm, still water in a quarry at 61 feet in fresh water in a 5-mil wetsuit, is that person ready to go into the St. Lawrence Seaway on a shipwreck in 110 feet of water? Because that's where they're going for the next dive.
Because they did their advance, now they're advanced.
Yeah.
Right, they've done their advance. Are they ready for that dive?
So,
are they ready for a dive on the Bloody Bay Wall that goes down like 900 feet that way?
James.
But they had a heart. But the only reason they stayed at 61 is because you were kneeling in the mud at 61 feet. Are they ready for that wall dive?
You're
where
a
it
man
doesn't
after my own
end?
heart, because you're 100%, 1000% correct. A freshwater diver diving 61 feet is not ready for saltwater diving. Because this goes back to freshwater diving is not real diving.
Well, it's vice versa, actually. It's the same thing, because they're not experienced in that environment. It's a different world. And many people would say that the Caribbean water is so much clearer, it's so much easier, it's warmer, 100 feet of visibility. But that is just as alluring and detrimental to somebody, because it's a false sense of security. As somebody that learned their advanced in Grand Cayman and came up to the cold Great Lakes water, Midwestern quarry water to do a dive, the fact of the matter is it's a completely different environment, and one doesn't justify the other. You need experience in more places to consider yourself a quote unquote advanced diver.
Yeah.
So I think
That's
I think that Jason Bowen brings up a good point here, and I think this is where we were going, and we're all going, is even if it's general standards, not just SDI, tell a diver they are qualified to dive in conditions similar to which they are trained. Like I think that's really what we're looking for. If you went to Bill, back to your point, how deep did you go on your deep adventure dive of your advanced class?
Yeah, so this is a great clarification. So in the certification, and I'd like to make the record clear here, it's not that I'm a 50 dive advanced open water diver.
Right.
It's 150 dives, which I'm sure compared to you guys, that's minuscule, but for most advanced open water divers, that's kind of lengthy. In that certification, we went to 100 feet, and we did the whole test to see if you're feeling the effects of narcosis and everything like that. It wasn't until I got out of the training and into like more professional diving with dive masters and instructors that they're like, we're going down to 120. Oh, you're advanced, you can come with us. So I wonder if that maybe is part of the clarification to say, yeah.
That's exactly what but how do they know that you're qualified? They don't necessarily know you're qualified. They saw that you had that, and a lot of people like to sell it like that.
Hey, Bill, I don't necessarily disagree that in the right setting with the right group of people and the right people that you've been diving and building experience with, I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with them mentoring you and moving you past that level.
Yeah,
I think that's a different discussion altogether.
For sure.
Than just saying, I've gotten my advanced card, you're good to 120.
Yeah.
There's in many ways, I think, mentoring someone in the right way, knowing that they've got, not that it's just they're having you trust them to follow them to 120 is way different than making sure you're prepared properly to go with them to that depth. I think those are two very different things.
Yeah, right. And if I may, I think this is also a very important point, and maybe this is a whole nother subtopic on what is an advanced diver. Let's talk gear. That's something we haven't really talked about. So to be an advanced diver, are you taking rental gear that every single time you dive is a new rig, or are you diving on your own rig?
Renting gear, you're not an advanced diver. If you're on rental gear, 90% of the time you are not an advanced.
Here we go. Here we go.
5, baby. Here we go.
Listen, I have this conversation with people that are looking.
How high is your high point?
Buying gear, and I tell them flat out.
Are you on top of
a diver? Danny, I will give you the floor. Let me just say this. I tell people, if you consider yourself a diver, if you go to the pub and you're going to hit on a chick and you go, I'm a diver. Oh, you got a little, I'm a diver too. And you whip out your open water card and you go, I am a diver. To me, that means you have your own gear. You are a diver. If you don't have your gear, you travel. You dive once every 2-3 years when when mom and dad take you on a cruise and you do the one little resort dive. You're not a diver. You've got a certification, but you're not a diver. There's a big difference between having a certification and diver. I say give it to Natalie. She's got her hand up.
Oh, wait a second. Just 1 second. I want to recognize how the tables have turned, because normally you Brando up and just leave him go. Brando, you get him going and just leave him be, and you're like, go talk. Now it's you that's going rock and roll. Nat, go.
Okay, so I have like probably 5,000 or 6,000 cave dives. Okay, I explore, I do all this. I have full on like gone on vacation and rented an open water PCD and rental gear and got on a shallow normal dive. So you can't like judge somebody for having rental gear because like I'm not gonna take all this shit if I'm gonna do 2 dives. Give me your gear and I'm gonna go diving and it's gonna be fun. I've done this.
Not having, I don't mean having rental gear, but because you have your own gear.
Advanced open water card.
I don't think there's anything wrong with using rental gear in a situation like that. You have your own gear, you know your own gear, and you're in a place with to rent.
You got to point out the chart. We have a chart here. We have actual
Open Pandora's box, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, jeez. Wow.
All we're doing as instructors in this entire conversation is a bunch of people sitting on high horses looking down on people that are just doing what we want people in this industry. So when you tell them, hey, you're not an advanced diver because you're not doing what I do, and I have 100,000 dives on you. I've gone through 15 professional courses, and I'll tell you, you're not a professional diver. You know what? Take it out of your butt. All right? These people are in your own agency standards, they're considered advanced, or they're considered whatever they're considered. You need to get your head out of your butt.
Danny, you don't have to worry. No one's used the word professional with
Danny,
you. It's
right,
okay.
but you didn't held up on semantics. Danny, you're right, but you're 100% right, but you're held up on the semantics of what advanced is. And if advanced to you is industry standards, you are correct, but that's because you're a part of the industry. We're saying advanced is something different because we are.
James, are you part of a different industry that has a different standard? Because I don't think you are. Because I think you have regular standards. So I don't know what to tell you. You're upholding your own standards rather than your own agency standards.
Right. And that's minimum standards, right?
Which is okay, but they're still your standards, and they're still your agency standards. So
correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, and this is your show, so correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, no.
I believe the whole premise behind tonight's show is the industry standard of 9 dives what we should as a community accept as the standard. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be a voice for the community and the voice for the people that have to deal with this out in the field. And this voice, the voice that I hear over and over again is 9 dives is not enough for me to be comfortable to know that this is an advanced diver that I, as a professional, don't have to watch over like a hawk.
Hey, James, just to interject, you're an UTD instructor?
I am, yeah. And I've been a PADI instructor for 20 years.
All right, so forget about PADI. Let's go to UTD. Can you look up your advanced diver standard for UTD?
Yeah. What about it?
Just look it up. Tell me how many times that person needs and what they need to be able to show. Just look it up.
Well, you need 25 dives between certifications to even begin to move. And then you need a recommendation by the instructor to continue forward that you've got that level prior to what you're doing mastered and you're ready to move.
Can somebody with less than 25 dives, based off of your opinion, move on to the next level?
There's not an instructor in UTD that would take it. They'd tell you to go dive more.
But I'm just asking.
They wouldn't tell you suck. They wouldn't tell you can't do it. They would tell you that for your own best interest, you need to dive. You need to get some practice in.
But what I'm asking you is, as per standards, can you, as an instructor, certify somebody advanced open water or recreational 2 or whatever your level it is, it's equivalent?
Yeah.
Can you do that with somebody with less than 25 dives, based off of your own opinion? Look at the standard. Don't even guess. Just look at the standard.
No. So first off, I'm gonna tell you that what the standard says is
no.
What
I want to know
subjectivity is. There's always going to be some ability. Are you telling me that there's no PADI open water instructor that would tell somebody ever that they're not ready for advance?
No, what I'm telling you is to go.
And I was one of them when I taught just for PADI. When I taught just for PADI, I was.
Just
What's
go.
that?
Just go into your computer, pull up the PDF of the standard, and see if it's possible. That's all I'm asking.
That's way too complicated.
So from an insider,
Fair enough. That's the next one.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, no, it's not possible.
as instructor, so again, as the greenhorn in this entire conversation, one of the things I've always been curious about is what is, and again, this is kind of one of these core topics of this whole conversation, is what is that baseline standard to say that this person is advanced? Forget open water. We know the open water. Is there a uniform, like universal standard to say this person's checked off the list?
Nope.
I'm seeing a lot of head shaking, and I think that is a core problem.
RSTC.
Well,
maybe.
I think go ahead, Natalie. I apologize.
I say like you've got the recreational school council of training, blah, 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 blah. It would be helpful if they would have like very strict standards. It's like black and white.
They do. They do
Yes, they
actually have standards.
They
They're there.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, Danny's right. They do have standards, and
They're
this is my point. I believe the
What are
standards
the
are wrong.
standards, Danny? Look them up.
Yes.
Yeah, Danny. Yeah, Danny, look him up with the goddamn standards, Danny.
What one would you like?
It's a call
All
for the
work,
native
no standards.
RSTC Advanced. Bring them up.
I'm doing it.
Love it.
All right. So to
Because-
clarify,
administrators.
yeah, that was your entire ITW or half of it. Looking up standards. So Rick brings up a good point. I want to clarify some things when we're talking about advanced. There's advanced and advanced adventure for SDI and I don't know some of the terminology from the other ones. When we were talking advanced, we were talking about advanced adventure. It is 25 dives and significant number of specialties for the advanced with SDI. We are talking about advanced adventure. We are talking about advanced open water. We are talking about your infographics are a little bit different between different organizations because Patty goes straight down open water, advanced, rescue, dive master. SDI just goes open water and then rescue, but there's prerequisites and goes off to the side. I'm not sure about UTD because I haven't looked up the standard. You want me to bring them up, Danny?
Every single agency does the exact same thing. This is what I'm so tired of hearing this argument.
Standards.
I'm working on it. It's the main thing. I don't know what I'm gonna tell you. I'm actually trying to work on it.
Something
Because
different.
you don't need advanced to go to rescue to dive master with SDI.
No,
You don't need the five
to-
dive sampler platter.
You don't need
And
that.
then
Well,
Jason's comment really highlights it. Like he thought we were being sarcastic about 9.
Yeah.
while we're waiting for Danny to find the standards, we can talk like something I found interesting about working for different agencies, which I've only done for Patty or for TDI. Patty, if you check the boxes, you are required to certify them. For TDI, if they do everything, there's something called the Friends and Family Clause, which is if you would feel uncomfortable with the person's like diving at this level with a similarly certified like friend or family member, then you are industry or like agency obliged to not certify them.
So Natalie,
Say like,
I'm
hey, I don't
That's
like
awesome.
Natalie, I'm going to correct you. As a Patty and ITI instructor, you're wrong. Patty has the same thing, but it's under mastery. So instead of
So now we're going back to that mastery definition,
yeah,
right?
but that's the same thing as saying that somebody is okay to dive with a loved one. So
Is that outline defined in Patty, or is it
Mastery.
no longer? I dropped them a while ago.
No, mastery is defined in Patty as far as this person needs to show mastery of every single skill. SDI gives you that friends and family clause, which is essentially serving the same purpose. So again, I'm going back to no agency matters. You can do everything through XYZ, even UTD, even then. And it's still, you're going to get a good education as long as you have the right instructor. So us bashing.
I'll give you points on that one, Dan. I'll give you points on that for sure. No doubt about it.
It
It's
doesn't
also
make a
the
difference.
enforcing, but it also comes back to the instructor being knowledgeable. Because when I was a Patty instructor, I had my shop telling me I had to certify them. That I, of course, was as we taled about, was refusing over the master thing about mask clearing.
Wrong. You don't have to certify anybody you don't feel you have to certify. If you can state that they're
until that comes back to the shop.
you don't certify.
It tells you want to keep your job.
No agency is going to tell you what you have to do. And this is my point, that we all sit there, we want to blame other people. But if you have a really crappy student 2-3 years later, it's because of you. You as the instructor are the problem. All right?
And I've got someone I started that are crappy.
No doubt about that. No doubt about no, and nobody's disagreed with that, Danny.
No.
That's what makes a good instructor is the one that is able to take that struggling student that's having a difficult time and can't get it. The one that can show them the light and move them towards an ability to be able to do something that they couldn't do before. That's what makes a good instructor versus a bad instructor. That has not been any part of this conversation whatsoever.
See, the problem is that you're not taking into consideration that is exactly what this entire conversation is about. This entire conversation isn't about agency standards.
That's not been the premise of anything I've said.
So every single person here, aside from me, has said that you're not an advanced diver at 9 dives. But if you're a damn good instructor and you're following these standards to a T, and you're actually upholding and you're really going through, I want to make sure my student masters buoyancy, my student masters mass clearing, my student masters every single open water skill, plus every single advanced AOW skill. At 9 dives, they are an advanced diver because they're probably better than the divers that you're certifying.
Anybody here get them to master deep diving to 100 feet in one dive? Because I certainly can't.
You're not trying hard enough, Natalie. I don't know what to tell you.
You are so full of shit. You're so full of shit. Wait, no. Actually, because Bill already dropped the F-bomb. You are so fucking full of shit.
Listen, here's the thing.
Who be your daddy?
Danny.
No, Danny for Danny.
Danny, wait 1 second. Natalie, you were going to say something. Go. You've been talked over a couple times, so go.
I was just saying, we're talking about card versus mastery. If, like Danny says, the instructor truly makes sure that the person masters all of the skills required in the advanced open water course, then yeah, they deserve the card. But can you do that in 9 dives and you're jumping around? 9 dives, from open water through advanced in 9 dives. Can you do that? I can't do that.
Right. Well, see, Natalie, that's my point and I see what Danny's saying is Danny says he is such a kick-ass, amazing, awesome instructor that he makes sure that all of his divers, they complete their open water class and they complete their advanced open water class. And in 9 dives, they are truly advanced. And what I'm saying is,
no way.
I think I'm pretty good. But there's no goddamn way in hell. Maybe. I'm not saying completely. There may be 1 or 2 over the course of time that are just so sharp, so spot on, but they are the anomaly. Now, might they have met the industry standards for the advanced open water card to put it in their wallet, to flash at the pub, to hit on the chick?
I don't understand why we need to say industry standards.
But I consider them to be an advanced diver out on the water. 2 completely different worlds.
I think this just comes back to the misnomer of the advanced open water course, really.
Thank you. That's exactly it.
And the epitome of that, really, when I think of the epitome of that is how the misnomer is that depth rating type of thing. We talked about it, somebody made it in the comments of you're certified to go to the depth you've gone to. You're qualified at that level, and then make sure that you follow correct procedures going forward. And so many advanced open water students. Yeah. And then they want to do a cenote. So many people say, yeah, I'm certified to go to 130. No, you're not. You're certified to go to 100. Not that there are scuba police, not that your qualifications are different, but if we are talking purely semantics on what you are certified to do, you are certified to go to 100 feet. And so many people bill it. You will even see it on shop websites that are like, hey, you have your advanced, you can go to 130. No, you can't. Yeah, come on down. You can do it. Just give us a little extra tip. But I also think that Danny brings up a very good point in his devil's advocate portion of that. he's buying.
Diablo.
Yeah. Okay. He is bought so far into that, to the persona of what a lot of people have their opinions. I am so good of an instructor that I followed exactly the cookie cutter version of what I've been told to do, that I am so good of an instructor that my students are advanced at 9 dives. Don't tell me how to teach. So you see that a lot. You hear that. I mean, not a ton, but you hear that a fair amount.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
well, you're acting like it.
I gotta be one end of this entire thing. So I gotta be.
Way to take control of this situation, finally, Jason.
I'm enjoying watching you guys go. Danny, go.
So you got Natalie and James, who I'm sure are fantastic, amazing instructors. All right, and I'll go to them tomorrow. I guarantee you, in whatever realm that they teach in, they're absolutely amazing. All right, and I absolutely believe it. But if they are pulling it out of their ass, if they say that there isn't a student that they've had that they certified that they weren't 100% sure on.
I have never certified a student that I am not 100% sure.
I have turned away more students. I've never failed a student, but I've told many students
failed a student to come back.
You're not ready yet.
All right, so
they're on the goddamn comments right now. Go ahead and chime in. How many of you are still waiting to get a clean pass from me? It's not because
I think Brandon's still waiting, isn't he?
Comes next, and I know the class that they want to walk through like a piece of cake, and there's no way that I'm going to send them to somebody like Natalie to take a cave class with credentials of I think that they need, and then they show up to her and go, who the, because Bill said this first, who the fuck let you here? Ain't gonna happen with my name. No way in hell. It doesn't mean they're failing. It just means they're not ready yet. They need more work. This is the problem with a weekend class, is it puts every one of these students with a thinking that they have to get done in a weekend. It takes away all the fun from education. It takes away the joy of learning. It makes it something that you have to get done in 2 days. When in reality, the learning process should be the fun. That should be the joy. That's where you learn everything. That's where you do stuff. That's where you spend the time. You build the education so that you can move on.
Nobody is disagreeing with it. And I guarantee you, between Natalie, you, myself, and Jason, there are students that have been waiting 2-3 years at most in order to pass a class. Oh, yeah. I am not an easy instructor. As much as I want to BS and play the devil's advocate in each end, and I am not an easy instructor. I didn't even pass Jason in advanced buoyancy control because he
I looked like shit that day. I will admit it. That was just completely fucked. I should not have brought that BCD. Since Bill said it first, I was fucked.
And there was
it was terrible.
So he was what? He was what? 9.5 dives?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, out of everything I've heard of Jason, and him and I worked together for a very long time, there was so much silt that I called the dive.
It was a fucking
I said, you know what? It's not even worth it. I said, if all I'm going to see is Jason's fins kicking everything up.
It wasn't that bad, but it was fucking bad.
So I wouldn't have passed him.
Yeah. That was a very, very bad. When was that? January, February, some shit like that?
It was a terrible freshwater dive because that's what they all are. And you made a mess of it. That's not the point. My point is we're all hard instructors. All right. Anybody here who's an instructor, I think that if you're having a conversation with Jason Meany, you're a tough instructor. All right. And I think you could hang your hat on the fact that you should be proud of being a tough instructor. But James, Natalie, I don't know you guys from a hole in the wall. Maybe your standards are not the same as mine, or maybe my standards aren't the same as yours. So when
I wouldn't say that I'm a hard instructor.
I'm still talking, James.
Sorry. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. You must have been finally taking a breath. I thought you were.
No.
There was a pause.
James, I can do this all day. So
yeah, he can. He's an EMT. He just reads the standards all day long.
First of all, paramedic.
Oh, I forgot.
I received the RSTC standards for advanced open water.
I have it here. If you guys would like to read through them, I will read through them, and I will do it in the voice of Bobcat Goldthwait.
No,
Right.
we're already at 90 minutes for Christ's sake for a 45-minute show.
All right, let me finish up my point real quick. I think it's an important point.
Yeah.
You got to get over yourselves as instructors, as dive masters, as advanced divers. You need to get your head out of your butt and realize that the standards are written for the fact that a million people a year are certified as open water divers. The fact that maybe a couple thousand of them continue on to their training, right? All we're doing when we're sitting here making these standards, having these discussions about the minutia of standards, we're turning away possible divers that are just going to go diving, and that's better for all of the industry. So
I disagree with you, Danny. I totally disagree with you.
In sport, people should actually be able to handle themselves.
So
Thank you, Natalie.
Right,
Thank you, Natalie.
so here's one of the.
You can dive at 60 feet. You can dive at 40 feet. I'm okay. If you can't set up your gear, you shouldn't have.
Thank you.
What is it? 8.5 feet for an AGE.
What I want to do, I want to have
8.5 feet for an AGE.
Forget about diving. We're going to have this conversation. I want you to have a ski instructor. I want you to have a dance instructor. I want you to have any kind of physical activity instructor here on the conversation. And then I want you to ask them, what's the difference between a basic and advanced person? And you'll see that the standards for scuba are so skewed. They're so silly. They're so arbitrary that none of it makes sense. Right? And we're fighting about the nonsense about it.
No, we are actually fighting about the name. I think Brock suggested Scuba 201.
That's right.
And this is great. Scuba 101, Scuba 201. We have solved the problem.
Which is exactly what it is. It's advanced open water. It's not advanced diver,
That's not
professor. It's advanced open water.
But that's how it's built.
That's how it's
Hey,
built.
Danny, how many people? Hey, Danny, can you look up how many people have died on the Spiegel Grove?
15. I just actually looked that up.
Was it advanced open water certifications?
15. I have the paperwork right here. 15.
Okay. What? How could an advanced open water diver die on the Spiegel Grove?
This is weird because UTD instructors 45. I'm just making this up, but I'm just saying if you're asking.
My point is, how is this even possible? How is this even possible?
45 UTD instructors.
I mean, sure, you're there. I get it. If you're there, you're diving on the day you didn't get the memo that Hurricane Irma's coming through. I get it. You're probably a goner. But on a normal day, like, how does it occur? It's because people are not ready for that title to be doing a dive.
I think you're going too crazy about these titles because you know what? I know a lot. I've known of a lot of instructors.
That's the title. That's me going crazy about the title is the title of this whole show we're doing.
Right. So
But
let's simplify things. Back it up.
meaning.
Hold on. Let's back it up and simplify this. The entire idea here is that when we start looking at this, the reason why people stop diving, all of us want people to continue diving. The reason why people stop diving, if you ask, they've done a study, is so the reason why people stop diving is they don't feel confident and they don't feel trained and they get out of 9 dives. They should be an advanced diver. They should be accomplished. The next thing they're looking at is rescuing people on their straight linear path for the vast majority of people. And you are looking at it going, oh crap, I really don't feel ready for this. I barely could dive by myself. How am I advanced? How can I be rescued? And they hang up their hats, which is actually a study that was done, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3. I'm getting old now.
Fisher.
Yeah. So they go through and do it.
Can you see if you're not a biologist?
Right. Yeah, well, Bill just loves the fish. Apparently, he's buying into Danny stuff. So
you have a special interest. It's like me, really liking different types of rock. So if you're making it challenging or interesting, I actually think.
But this is a great point, right? I think it harkens back to
if you're not making the thing like.
No, go for it.
Sorry, we're talking over each other.
Hey, wait.
You're not making the thing.
Natalie, you broke up. Hey, Natalie, start over again. You completely locked up and stopped. So start over again.
Yeah. Okay.
You're coming through now. So
I think this is a problem with the industry as well. I actually think we're doing ourselves a disservice by not making things challenging. Like, we approach diving as like, oh, go on a walk in the forest. Well, that's boring. I did it once, whatever, unless I have some special interest in this, whatever. If I make this a challenge to you and your certification means something, you're much more likely to continue. So I think actually adding an aspect of mastery and challenge and making it difficult will eventually increase the number of divers. We won't get as many DSTs. That's okay. We're good with that.
Yeah. Okay. Essentially expand out the segmentation between open water and advanced to make it someone get some experience, make someone or show the prerequisites of being able to do X, Y, and Z skill. I think maybe Brock said it earlier. Yeah. So like you're doing for the snow days, you have to be able to show that you can do these things. When you show that you can do these things, it makes it a challenge to actually uphold that when you're starting to do quality control and stuff like that. There are different ways around that. I know GUE does like a quality control after every single.
Really good at this.
Yeah, at that sort of thing. It's smaller, so it's easier to do, right? There's no way you could do, like Danny said, 1 million divers. There's no way you could QA 1 million people. So as you get to that big aspect, it makes it very complicated and challenging. But just saying that, hey, let me make you work a little bit more for this. Let me not just sell it to you next weekend. Let me make you wait a month and get some dives in and get some experience. Let's do different things. Interesting. Intermediate open water. I like that.
Build off these points just before we go off.
That's better.
Is
Bradley? Bradley's one of my hometown boys. Peace out.
I great.
Can I just say?
All right, hold on, Bill.
Been away for a while. So Natalie brought up this point of linearity, right? So you go through your open water, advanced open water into rescue. And as a fish brain biologist, marine biologist, and all that stuff, I love underwater naturalist. But how is that preparing you for saving a life, right? And like you need to build upon these skills. And I think this is something the industry really needs to reconcile with, is to say, are we just trying to get people to go into, buy into this PADI dive experience in Egypt or the Turks and Caicos or Bahamas? Or are we actually trying to, put through like competent, like life-saving divers to do cave diving, do tech diving?
Hey, Bill, I don't think there's anything wrong with PADI selling an underwater naturalist class.
No.
It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But
if you're learning something, if there's education involved.
There's a big difference between that and telling somebody they are advanced just because they've done 5 more dives.
Raising his hand.
Yeah.
It's a different. It's not even the same ball game.
There needs to be
1 second for Danny.
Maybe
Bill, I want to bring up.
And by the way, before Danny goes open it up again, Danny. I want to address the point that you made earlier. Is
Just taking notes. I like it.
When you said that we need to get over ourselves, first off, you said get over ourselves.
No.
Because the standards are written for the masses, and I think that is the problem. Because this started back in the '60s when it was we've realized we've built an industry.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a bunch of Navy guys that wanted to go diving anymore. We've built a whole market. We've created shit to sell, and we've got investors now that we have to uphold, and we've got people that we got to pay out. We need to keep the numbers going up and up and up and up and up and up. And the only way we're going to do that, if everybody's teaching like a goddamn drill instructor, nobody's going to pass classes. So we got to make this easier. And this is one of the cornerstones of what John Cronin did when he started PADI, was we need to make the system so that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can go down to Grand Cayman on a vacation and go down and see some fishies. And I've got zero problems with that. The problem is they take that class, which really teaches them to dive in 20 to 30 feet, holding the dive master's hand, and they immediately are in 100 feet of water. Yeah, that's an issue.
Danny,
the next thing you said that only a few people are going to move on. And the reason only a few people are moving on is because they get the living goddamn shit scared out of them at some point. And they go, fuck this. I can watch this on the couch on Discovery Channel and be perfectly safe.
He only said fuck this because
they leave the industry. They leave our community. That's the problem. So by lowering standards and bringing more people into the community is not fixing the problem with not enough people in the community. The not enough people in the community is because we've made the standards so easy.
Go ahead. I have one thing. It's quick, it's brief. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I feel like a jerk. So to go back to the original part of this conversation, and Danny, if you're listening, I love you. It's
right out of the frame.
What's the first thing you teach, right? As an instructor, what's the first thing you teach? My instructor, Dr. Travis Van Leeuwen, I love you, man. You're great. The first thing he taught me was, here's this book, Shadow Divers by John Chatterton and Rich Kramer and all those guys.
All right, this is what I'm bringing up. All right, here we go.
One of the things is this sport used to be people just built shit in their garage and they tried it out. There was risk involved. It's something that like you're not just going out to have this like beautiful experience. Like it's an extreme sport and it's extreme experience. And I think one of the things we really need to teach is the history of where this sport came from and what the actual like ramifications are for pushing boundaries. Anyway, that's my point.
So just before Danny goes off on a tangent, I want to bring up something you brought up because you talked about linearity and how we need to kind of get away from linearity, right? Your exact comment, Bill, at the beginning of this thing was, hey, my name's Bill. I'm an advanced open water diver, soon to be rescue. Yeah. You just did the linear thing. I need to qualify myself. I am going to the next step. I am on my path. I am doing the correct thing, which I am told to do. We need to be teaching to teach. We need to be teaching to get people in the water. Like, so this linearity, it almost goes too fast to the point of open water, advanced, and then drives you into rescue. So you're just staring at rescue after 2 weekends going, well, that's what's next for me. Oh my God, I can't believe I got there. Versus, hey, let's take some time. Let's mentor each other. Let's work together. Let's talk about becoming a better diver. Let's get you where you need to be. And let's get you involved diving with a bunch of people and get you a bunch of experience. And then let's go deeper. Let's do more things, more interesting stuff. Let's send you to Natalie for cenotes. Send you to Danny for some boring Long Island Sound, whatever garbage dives. Danny, go ahead, bud.
That's the point. I think that's the point.
Yep.
So what I want to say.
There it comes from Danny.
Here, Rick Peck, the nerd, is going to be standard. All right.
Yeah, he's faster than you.
Advanced Diver 10.1, introduction to the SDI Advanced Diver Development Program was created to make true advanced divers. Under the old way of training, the student could take an advanced course, immediately follow an open water course, and only have a total of 9 dives, all under the direct training of an instructor. The SDI Advanced Diver Development Program requires an open water diver to complete 4 SDI, TDI, or ERDI specialties or equivalent combined with 2 blah, 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 blah. Thank you.
Goes into 25 dives, yada, yada, yada. Yep.
Yeah. He is the resident nerd.
That's why we love him.
So here's my point.
That's who gave me my my drunk dialing. Actually, to give you background, he wrote me the drunk dialing certification card, which Danny was completely involved in. I think Danny might have been my instructor on that one.
What I've gotten out of this conversation is actually like once I replace my scooter batteries, then I really need to just get a card printer.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, because you can certify people whatever you want.
You know, it's the same
anything.
Send me a card, Natalie.
Yeah.
All right.
I can send whiskey cards. That Dram of Diving whiskey cards.
So the point that I want to make.
Any title you want.
We're
I'm gonna come up with something good. Danny, we already know he's the devil in residence. So
because you know what? I'm going to challenge you guys. I'm going to challenge you guys to the point where I'm going to say that if you're getting these problem students at AOW or whatever certification level you're teaching them at, and if you're not going to put the time in for them to make sure that they're at the actual level that you're certifying them for, then it's your fault.
So do you mean doing longer dives? Because you said that within 4 dives they would be ready for advanced. So does that mean doing longer dives?
In no agency standard. In none of them.
Danny, you're missing the point. Danny, you're missing the whole point.
James, you're missing my point.
Can I say like what I get what you just said. I fully 100%.
You're talking over me.
This is the whole point of this conversation.
This is my time, James. I'm going to need you to back off. All right, I'm going to need you to take the floor.
I thought you just break. I was interrupting Jason.
James, I'm just going to hold up your high horse sign here. All right, next to me. All right, this is going to be it.
What you said was if you're not passing these people to an ability and a standard that's in there, the point of this whole discussion is how they're coming in. It's not how they're coming out. It's how they're coming in.
You're making that point.
But that's the point of the conversation.
What you're doing is
that is the point of that. That's why I got invited to this show.
James, what you're doing is you're passing off the buck. You're saying that the problem is it's not my training, it's not my standard, it's the students that I have that I didn't teach. And I think, and I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that's a very easy thing to do.
That's 90% of the students that I teach are the ones that come to me because they know they're missing something.
I'm still going. All right. What I'm saying is that you're passing the blame. All right. You're taking the easy way out. If you were a hardcore instructor, you would say, you know what? I don't care what you looked like before. I don't care what certification you have. I'm going to make you a badass diver because that's what I do.
But just in 5 dives, because you can make an advanced diver in 9 total dives.
You know, I could take somebody who's never, ever been in the water before, and in 15 minutes, I could get them neutrally buoyant. All right. And I think every single person here can do this.
Actually, yes. Yeah, that is. Yeah, that is a very valid point that a lot of people are missing. I
think, Jason, you could do it. Natalie, I'm sure you could do it. James,
I can
give you the benefit of the doubt. I think you could do it. What I'm saying is,
make them a cave diver. It's just going to take 2 years. So we have are they qualified to start the next course is the question. And if you're not coming and having like
Natalie, all I'm saying is this isn't an affront on your ability as an instructor, right? I'm giving you guys the benefit of the doubt, right? I don't know you from Adam. You don't know me. What I'm saying is that if we can if every single one of us just adhere to a standard and whatever it is, and let's say the instructor before us didn't adhere to it, well, you know what? Their level is different. All right. Now here's your challenge as the instructor. This is what you're getting paid for. Do your job. Get the diver to an advanced level, whether it be 9 dives, 15 dives, 35 dives, 180 dives, or 7.
We all agree with
your
it.
job.
We're agreeing with you. I even said earlier, if somebody comes in and they don't have the level to start cave diving, my job is to make them be able to start cave diving. The frustration comes when they come in expecting to be able to have that level now because the other instructor didn't hold themselves up to it.
Yeah, it is.
We all understand that before we can do something, our job is to make them better and get them to that standard so they can start the course we want to teach them. The frustrating thing as a technical instructor is when they come in thinking they have it because somebody else told them they did and they really don't.
Yeah, but Natalie, to my point, you and I have never worked with the same student. All right, I think if we go through our student laws, I've never sent you a student, you never sent me a student. We don't know if we're actually upholding the exact same standard, right?
Yeah. But if they think they've done a side mount cave prep course and they can't backkick, they haven't done a side mount cave prep course.
All right. So, but my point is whatever your standard is, whatever my standard is.
So the thing is, then you have to do it first. That's the problem. But the issue on the side of the student, I think where the industry is letting them down, is that these standards aren't as fixed as they could be. So somebody comes in thinking they're ready to go to start cave with me, and I have to do 5 days of remedial training to get them to be able to start cavern.
Then they
That's frustrating for the student. So it's a really bad trick that the industry is playing on the student. And so if we could standardize things a bit better, that would
Stop. Because you're saying the industry. And again, it's not the industry. The industry is giving you the standards. The industry is giving you the
at my level, it's a bit of the industry, to be honest.
No, the industry is saying mastery. Patty, the one agency we all want to shit on, is telling you mastery. What is mastery? All right, mastery.
No one has the definition.
You were talking about, I'm saying, at my level, they don't have the, where do you start cave, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, Danny, you're missing, like you just said, to my point, when you interrupted her, but you're missing her point. And you didn't address her point. And her point is that these students are walking into her with a card that says that they're ready. And she's saying, you're clearly not ready.
And it's not nice. And so
they've passed standards, these standards that you are diligently fighting for, that she's telling you they're not acceptable.
What I'm saying is that the standards, as long as every single instructor in the world is adhering to actual standards, these students are going to get good classes that are going to prepare them for the next level. The problem is my standard or my definition. Well, obviously, what I'm saying is my standard of this meets the standard versus yours versus Natalie versus Jason versus Bill is so vastly different that if we're all sitting here arbitrarily saying that, you know what, no, it has to be 3 feet, it has to be 1 feet, it has to be 4 feet, it has to be 5 feet where you can keep neutral buoyancy. If we actually follow the standard as an instructor, just straight out from the bat, if I said, you know what, my student has to master every single skill in open water, I guarantee you my 9 water open water diver coming in for an AOW course is going to be better than your, they kind of made the standard because that's how kind of I feel. And that's the point. Like if you actually follow the standard from every single agency, because they're all the same, if you actually follow them and you actually held students to them, you would have better divers. You would have an advanced diver at 9 dives because, you know what?
I have an advanced diver at 9 dives.
If I can interrupt for just a second, Brock had a great comment. I think that ties a couple themes that we've had throughout the course or this conversation. One was, this is way earlier on, was like, how many people in 2020 actually keep a logbook? And then Brock just mentioned, he goes, Natalie, what matters more to you, a logbook or C cards? So how, as instructors, and sorry to interrupt this theme that we've been going on, but when you get a diver, when you get somebody, when you look at their book, if you look at their book, or do you look at the C card, what has more weight to you? My opinion as somebody that like brings divers on from, again, kind of coming through the mill, is I really look at the logbook itself.
I don't give a shit. I put them in the water and see how they dive. Nothing else means anything to me.
Yeah, I interview them and put them in the water.
Logbook, or I've never looked at a C card.
No,
I never ever asked the student for either one. I want to see them in the water.
Yeah, I've had students that can be really good and are relatively like low, like they have like 200 dives. They want to do a cave course. This is a low number of dives to do a cave course, and they're like actually really good, right? Maybe you, Bill, would be excellent. You're doing scientific diving. You probably got this down. Or you could have somebody with 1,000 dives, all of them logged on all of the cards, and they can be terrible. So I just care how they dive.
I interview them first. I have an interview on Saturday for a potential tech student. They come in for an interview, and then we go in the water afterwards to see if they're ready to go or not.
Aren't you wonderful, Jason?
I need to sit down and drink a beer with somebody before I'm going to take them in the water for a technical dive.
There you go. I think it was a standard team. I think it was like, screw all the prerequisites and all that bullshit. I want to see them in the water. You know what I mean? Like, that's really uplifting to me as somebody that is not an instructor, is that there's a group understanding that, listen, you could have all the prerequisites and the recommendations and all that bullshit in the world, but I want to see you actually in action. So I don't know. Maybe that's a part of a larger discussion to say, where do we get them to the point where this needs to be a standard?
Well, back in my notes, I've been taking on this conversation. I wrote. We just need to do checkout dives, guys, and we need to hold people to them.
But I just want to point out that even Patty, again, the agency that we all shit on because we're better than Patty,
put another $1 in, baby.
Tells you to do an evaluation dive with every single student you didn't certify.
Yeah.
So if you just did your job as an instructor,
I was good. I did my job.
You would be better off. Just do your job.
Wait. You're saying that we don't do an evaluation dive with our students?
No, we all do, I think.
We all do
it because we all follow standards. But I'm saying that that's part of the standards of.
Not even because it's standards, because it's common sense.
Yeah, but it is part of your
some people need standards to have common sense.
Yeah, it is part of your standards. So if you don't do,
Jason, I think that's the point of this discussion.
Right. Yeah. So, James, were you reading something just to get away from Danny, or were you reading something because you wanted to prove a point?
I was specifically looking for something. I was like, right now. I was going to read.
Either James has checked out and he walked away and he's just reading his logbook there, or he's actually looking something up.
I was looking for something.
He's waiting to bring something back to throw it in my face. That he's doing his job, but I got it.
Yep. Wow. So
I'm gonna keep looking for it though.
Yeah. Well,
James, do me a favor. Keep looking in their standards. I appreciate that you're doing that. You should actually read them. That's a good thing.
Well, this is where we're currently at. We are at an hour and 54 minutes for a show that I normally book about 30 to 45 minutes and plan for an hour for.
Nice.
And we've only lost 10 viewers over the entire thing, and it's been in the last 10 minutes. So
I have a lot of reels.
it's been impressive that people have hung out with us.
That's all.
Yeah. So
Thanks, everybody.
yeah, I think we should conclude this. This is a very long session. I'm very thankful for all you guys for spending all this time with me. I wasn't expecting this to go as long as it did, but that's the way it goes. Thank you to Danny for playing devil's advocate. Hopefully you don't lose any students because of the game you play. Danny is very fun to hang out with for the most part, especially when you get him drunk.
Are we having one more final toast and drink, everybody?
Yeah, that's
All
exactly
right.
what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna top off mine a little bit.
I would like to say to Danny, I know we went head to head, but it was a pleasure having you on to have that voice of that devil's advocate. I know I wouldn't have had the balls to take it on. Congratulations. I think it only helps validate a lot of what I believe in, if anything else. So cheers to you.
Cheers, Danny.
Danny.
I don't know about that one. I gotta say thanks. Thanks,
I
Jay.
like it.
Yeah. You keep reading your standards. Let me know how they work out. All right.
All right. Well, cheers, guys. Thank you very much. I'm going to take you guys out. I'm going to say goodbye to all the folks. Then I'll come back and say goodbye to you guys personally. So thank you.
Good.
He's
Talk
got
to you guys in a minute.
Wait, are we allowed to still yell at each other in the green room while you go offline?
Oh yeah, go right ahead. I don't know if you can hear each other, but go ahead and yell at each other.
Jason does the.
He's got the cramps, man. I don't care what you say.
Jason does the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, where he gives the final lesson of the day, and he's like,
Yeah.
Guys. So
Yeah, Jason, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, none of us have busted Jason's balls at all in this, and I think Danny brings up a good
That's in the
point.
green room.
He should be doing something productive at the end of this to really wrap up the show.
in all fairness, Jason does dive freshwater, so he's not a real diver. So we just kind of let him do his thing.
I'm diving salt August 1st and 2nd.
Come on down, Bahamas, baby. Come on down.
Yeah.
In and out, fresh and salt.
Yeah, that counts now.
No, that doesn't count. It makes it weird. And hey, we don't know if you should clean your gear later or first. Or
No, you can
whatever.
use the fresh water.
We're doing the stall in the Arundo, so
When
we'll
you're
be happy.
in 15 feet of water, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter. All right, dude.
All right, I'm taking you guys out. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. It was a lot of fun. Glad you had me.
Had a good time, man.
All right. Talk to you soon. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in to our 2-hour-long special. We digressed and we came back and we went round and round and we had some good conversations. I'm very happy for it. So, as always, you'll be able to subscribe right over here on the YouTube channel. And you'll probably see a suggested other video posted at the beginning of this whole thing as a Patreon link, and then the whiskey glasses that allow us to kind of bring this sort of content to you and keep the whole thing going on. So thank you very much for hanging out, watching the show. I think what we came to a general conclusion, despite Danny arguing, was that maybe we need to uphold people and kind of push them so that we can keep them in the sport a little bit longer and mentor them, take them under your wings, make sure that they are involved in everything and really truly giving them and selling them advanced when they should be getting advanced. It's up to you to sell at the right point and not to sell them a course and drive a course to them that when they are not ready for that course. Give it to them when they're ready so we can keep divers diving. And that is what we want to do. Thank you all for participating. Again, subscribe, throw it on the Patreon, and help us out as much as you can. Thank you again very much for all the support. Have a great night, guys.